Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Things Good podcast. I'm your coach and your host, Giovanna Cirillo. I'm going to tell you to trust the process. And that is the name of today's topic, today's episode, trusting the process. Whatever you are doing, whatever business you have launched, whatever platform you are on, whatever product you are selling, whatever you're creating, whatever you're giving to your community around you, trust the process. Because you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's rooting for you and supporting you. And, I just want to give a brief testimony about just that. I just started this podcast in March. And I did not expect the amount of listeners and the amount of supporters for this podcast, not so quickly. And I am truly grateful for my supporters, my followers, my listeners. Just within the past couple of weeks, random people, like people that I did not expect to be actually listening to my podcast, have said, your podcast is so good. Or, your podcast helped me to gain a different perspective. Keep doing it. And I'm just like, I didn't even know you were listening to the podcast. And they said, yeah, I am. I mean, I might not, share it on my social media because I'm not on social media like that, but I am listening to your podcast. So keep it going. And that was such an encouragement for me. And not that I planned to stop or was getting discouraged because of anything, but it was just like, wow, people are listening. Even if it's just one that I can help change their perspective or bring on a guest that will be able to help another listener. That is what it's all about, right? It's not for me, it's for everyone else. And that is just who I am. I like to help people, and however I can do it is how I'm going to do it. So continue doing what you are doing. Do not get discouraged. Trust the process. Trust that people are actually listening. Trust that you do have the experience needed to do what you are doing. Trust that you have the wisdom and the knowledge to continue on your path and what you are doing for yourself and for others. Along with trusting that process, I know that I have also spoken to a lot of people who have just come out of traumatic events, traumatic experiences, toxic relationships, toxic businesses. I mean, everything toxic that you can name, they have come out of. And a lot of them questioned why they experience what they experience. And me, myself, this past weekend, I had a lot of time to pray, to meditate, to think, and to be grateful for a lot of things. And in that sitting and in that resting, I reflected on my past couple of years, my past versions of myself, the things that I've endured and the things that, were challenging for me, the manipulation, the control that I experienced, and the things that I allowed to happen, right? Because we also have to have accountability. It's not always what people have done. We can't always place the blame game, but we have to take accountability for the things that we allowed. So during this moment, I was in this moment of reflection. The years were passing by me like a movie. And of course, a moment of frustration because the ego wants to rise up and the emotions want to rise up and say, why did I endure what I endured? Why did I, allow what I allowed? Why was I the one to experience this? And I began to see everything just connect dots. God began to connect the dots for everything. And he began to show me that everything I endured, everything that I went through, everything that I've done to other people, everything has made me the person that I am today, has created a stronger version of myself, a wiser version of myself, a more understanding, compassionate version of myself. And so if you are in your life and you are questioning your past, you are questioning the decisions you've made, you're questioning the things that you endured, the toxic relationships, the abuse, the emotional abuse, the manipulation, the control, the erotic behaviors. I mean, things that you never thought that you would go through, things that you would never thought you would experience. And you're questioning why. Look at your life now. Look at the person that you have become because of it. Maybe you're not the best version of yourself just yet, but that's only because you haven't taken the perspective to look back and say, what have I learned? What has made me stronger? What has made me wiser? What has made me more loving and compassionate? If the experiences that you have experienced hasn't created something greater, that's because you haven't taken the perspective to look at things objectively. You are looking at them from a victim mindset. You are looking at them from a perspective of emotions, frustration, and anger. Pause. I need you to pause. I need you to look back, and I need you to see those areas where you thought you lacked, those moments where you thought that nothing was going in your favor, those times that you thought that you could not get out of it. Look at where you are now. Look at the things that you have gained. It might not be all material. You see, we always look at the material first. And that was one thing that I did, and I'm not going to lie. I began to say, I've given so much money. I helped here, I helped there. And look at my situation. I'm not financially abundant. I don't have anything in savings, right? This is my mindset. Nothing benefited from that. But then God showed me that in those years, I lacked nothing. And it's apparent that I lacked nothing because people were always coming to me for finances. And God began to show me, and I laugh now because I'm like, God, I've never lacked nothing. There was never a moment where food wasn't on my table. There was never a moment where my bills weren't paid. There was never a moment where my insurance wasn't paid. My car note wasn't paid. My rent wasn't paid. There was never a moment where my daughter even lacked anything. And when I began to see that, I'm like, wow, I'm here complaining about the things that I don't have, but I never lacked. Ever. So look back at your life and realize and connect the dots, because that's what began to happen. The dots began to connect, and I began to see all this happen for this particular moment. Those doors that closed in your life, those relationships that ended in your life, those businesses that didn't work out, everything that failed in your life was for a reason. Every abuse and challenge and trauma was for a reason. And at that moment, you may not have seen it, because in the moment we don't. But when you look back, you will see that it has created a greater version of you. It should have created a greater version of you, a stronger version, a wiser version, a more understanding version, a compassionate version of who you are. So don't despise the past. Move forward. Close those doors. I truly believed in that specific moment that the door was closing. That season of my life, that the moment where I felt like everything was ending, everything that I have known is no longer existent. It was all for a reason. And I now know that God was doing something. He was closing the door. He was closing the door of that season in my life where I can look at it in a point and say, it wasn't all bad. I learned so much. I've grown so much. I've endured so much. I'm stronger. I'm a different person. And if I was ever to go back to those friendships again and relationships again and environments again, they will see she's different. She's changed. And it's because I have. And I will continue to remain this person until something else happens in my life where I become a greater version of me. So if something is happening in your life, it's because God is saying there's a greater version of you that is coming if you will just trust the process. If you are currently enduring something in your life, there is a greater version of you that is looking to come forth if you just trust the process. That past that you endured, those relationships, those businesses, those encounters that you had in the past were meant to create a greater version of you. If you would just trust the process, if you look at it from a different perspective, you will see that you are called to go from glory to glory, not from bitterness to anger, to frustration. No, that's not it. That's not who you're called to be. You're called to be an expression of love, because that is what God is, an expression of love. So I hope that this short podcast has given you a different perspective of your life, of your challenges, of the things that you endured, those things that you questioned, why me? Because it was called to create a new version of you. I look back and I say, wow, not to glorify myself, but to say I truly am a different person. I never loved the way I love now. I said this before in a different podcast. I'm stronger, I'm wiser. I don't put up with much now. No. Just because I'm more loving doesn't mean I'm weaker. No, it means that I actually have more tolerance and more patience. However, there are some things that I cannot endure and I will not tolerate. You see, because there's versions of you that may have died, but there's versions of you that still go along with you on your journey and in your path. Because we're not called to just leave the past behind. We're called to take those moments, those good moments, the good and the bad, and bring it forth with us. Because it makes us who we are. Sometimes we want to just forget the past. And there are moments that you should forget. But there are moments that you should take along with you, because you need to remember. Remember who you were in the past and you don't want to be again. Remember that person that hurt you in that way, and you want to take that and you want to say, I will never hurt a person the way this person has hurt me. I would never try to control a person the way this person can try to control me, or manipulate a person the way this person has manipulated me. So take the good and the bad and allow it to form who you are becoming. Because the good and the bad is what makes us. So in this season of your life, I truly believe we are in a new season. Yes, there's a lot going around us. There's wars, there's storms, there's so much being exposed. But there's a new season. The moment of closure has begun, and the moment of springing forth is here. And I feel it, I see it, I believe it, and I'm excited for it, and so should you. You should be excited for this new version of you that's coming forth. And I actually want to talk more about this on another episode, but I'm going to leave it here for now. But I will continue. Until next time.